In the world of anime, there have been few shows that grabbed my attention and held it the whole way through than Hunter x Hunter. This show has all the elements you could ask for in an anime that I believe truly deviate from your typical shonen and place it at the top tier of anime. The reason for this is mainly in part due to the characters, of which many are some of the most fascinating and multi-layered creations the anime genre has to offer. Through his incredible sense of imagination, Togashi was able to craft personas in such a way that subvert expectations, leaving you with characters that you can relate to on a personal level. With this being the show that got me into anime, I find it only fitting to analyze the protagonist of the story, GON Freaks, and talk through his characterization throughout the story of Hunter x Hunter. I will warn you that this video will contain spoilers, so if you haven't watched Hunter x Hunter all the way through, please proceed with caution. So without further ado, let's explore exactly why GON is Hunter x Hunter's happy-go-lucky monster. As an expected start of a typical shonen, GON is depicted as a kid who's determined in following in his dad's footsteps as a hunter. Shockingly, he harbors no ill will towards his dad, and seeks him purely for the curiosity and challenge that this adventure will contain. This is truly the first insight we get into GON's ethical complexities and moral compass. Along this journey, the people he meets that most closely align and support him with this goal, he labels as good, or worth keeping around, like Killua, Leorio, Kurapika, etc., while others are strictly evil or disposable in his eyes. Despite this, GON does have the demeanor of a child, so how he approaches and views problems is what's expected and congruent of what we know of childlike behavior. On top of this, GON is mostly shown as a kind-hearted and carefree individual who cares deeply for those close to him. While this genuine characterization is what we expect of GON and what is shown on the surface, Togashi sprinkles in elements of darkness throughout the various arcs of the story that ultimately culminate in one of the most terrifying and beautiful descents in anime. On the ship to the exam site, the captain notices GON tending to all the seasick passengers while he's completely unfazed. This scene has always struck me as inconsistent. How could GON see so many people blatantly die in the Hunter exam, but have the compassion to care for the different examinees on the boat that he didn't even know? My explanation for this is that GON's disposition towards certain events is directly correlated to the amount of stress that's put on him or his immediate friends. What I mean by this is that GON's childlike and genuine personality will shine through when the stakes are at their lowest, meaning that there's no immediate goal, threat, or danger to him. However, when these factors are present, GON will think only of himself and his ambitions, while disregarding those that he finds unimportant. People argue that these inconsistencies make him a flawed character. However, I believe that this is exactly what grounds him and makes him a relatable one. Think that if you were in a dangerous situation with a room full of people you didn't know, would you tend to everyone's needs before your own? Now think if your family and friends were added to that room. You would be much more inclined to look out for them, right? After getting off the ship, GON, Leorio, and Kurapika encounter the leader of the village, where she asks the impossible question of choosing between your lover or your mother to save. The group correctly answers the question, which is by not saying a single thing at all. This question, posed by the administrator, outlined a complex moral dilemma. The question was never meant to be answered because its nature purely operates in shades of gray. The answer was never meant to be clear-cut. The reason GON can't answer it at all is due to the clear gap in his moral code or what he thinks is right versus the actual reality of the world around him. Passing the Kiriko trial with ease, the trio of GON, Kurapika, and Leorio are flown off to the Hunter exam site as they make their way down to the first phase. Here, GON meets Killua, and the two hit it off immediately. But around the 60-kilometer mark, GON helps Leorio finish the multi-marathon by refusing to move until he gets back up, again reinforcing his pure-hearted nature and his commitment to his friends. During the second stage of the exam, where the contestants are asked to follow Satots through the Milzy wetlands, GON hears Leorio screaming as he's running with Killua. Trying to save Leorio, he encounters Hisoka, who takes a personal interest in GON. He's absolutely powerless against Hisoka, who ultimately spares their lives. But at the end of the second stage, GON mentions that while he wanted to run away, he couldn't. The thought of being in mortal danger for the first time in his life excited him. This depiction of GON is completely different than what's expected of a child. This illustrates the fact that GON loves fighting, putting himself through danger, and the rush that it provides him. maybe Gon and Hisoka aren't so different after all. But that might have to be a topic for another video. Leave a comment down below if you'd be interested in seeing that. Since nobody could pass Menshi's cooking exam, the chairman of the Hunter Association himself, Isaac Netero, intervenes and invites the 42 remaining applicants on his airship to be transported to the next stage. Here, Netero finds Gon and Killua, where he challenges them to the simple task of taking a ball from him. If they're able to do this, they become hunters on the spot. Due to their best efforts, they still aren't able to get the ball from Netero. Killua, stating it's impossible, gives up, while Gon is left trying to steal the ball on his own. Gon eventually ends up forcing Netero to use his right hand by almost breaking his skull on his stomach. This terrifying tenacity in Gon is demonstrated just for the lighthearted game of tag. Think how far he would go in a real life or death situation. Like the search for his father, Gon will stop at nothing to achieve his goals once he set his mind to it. Paired with the black and white morality that Gon showed up to this point, Togashi is truly setting the roots for Gon's eventual fall into darkness early on in the story. As we progress to the 4th stage of the exam, Gon is met with even more excitement as he's tasked with hunting Hisoka, the one examinee that had given Gon the biggest sense of mortal fear. Purely speaking from my perspective, but I don't know if I'd ever be excited to pursue a person that I had an idea might be wanting to kill me, let alone a psychotic clown. After practicing how to hunt for days, Gon feels comfortable with using his fishing rod in an attempt to steal Hisoka's badge. During this phase of the exam, Gon inadvertently masters Zetsu, one of the 4 basic principles of Nen without even knowing it, when he attempts to hide when stalking Hisoka. This demonstrates his genius and natural intuition as a hunter. As night falls, Gon notices that Hisoka has set his sights on Kurapika and Leorio, and is met with an internal conflict. His primary goal, stealing Hisoka's badge, was dependent on him being distracted with prey, but Gon didn't consider if the prey were his 2 new friends. Gon reconciles with himself that he'll intervene if the situation becomes dangerous, but Gon is basing his decisions off of the danger level of the situation, which is something I theorized about him earlier. The next day, Gon was able to steal the tag from Hisoka and is knocked out soon after by another hunter applicant, Gareta. Hisoka then kills Gareta, handing back his own tag to Gon. This damages Gon's pride immensely, and he insists that Hisoka take the badge back. Hisoka then punches Gon and challenges him that he'll only return the badge if he can punch him the same way back. Gon has never felt this powerless in his life, and he's finally faced with an environment that's forcing him to grow. This ultimately results in Gon's obsessiveness to grow and become stronger, a similar theme that's almost present in any shonen protagonist. But we'll soon see how this obsession with newfound power impacts him later on in the story. Proceeding to the final stage of the Hunter exam, Gon's display of will is clearly shown when he faces off against Hanzo. His stubbornness is on clear display when he declines the win for the match, but he won't directly forfeit himself. When he learns that Killua didn't pass the Hunter exam because of Illumi's influence, Gon confronts him, breaking his wrist, and we'll soon get to see what lengths he's willing to go to in order to pursue the ones he cares about. The family arc is loyalty. Gon will stop at nothing to rescue Killua because he's someone that's been a true friend to him throughout the Hunter exam. Throughout the story as a whole, Killua has described Gon as being his light because he gave him the ability and the confidence to break away from the controlling family environment he was subjected to and gave him the independence he was yearning for. Through his influence of Kanari and Goto, Gon was able to prove that he would stop at nothing to see Killua, and although short, this arc only served to reinforce Gon's character as one who's undeterred when doing something for the sake of his loved ones. I don't know if this was the case for many, but the Heaven's Arena arc is where I truly got invested in Hunter x Hunter. Like many others, I believe that Nen is one of the most complex and well thought out battle systems in all of anime. As described in the title of this video, I don't think Gon is just a monster due to his complex morality and characterization, but I think he's a monster because of his immense talent for being only 12 years old. Gon absolutely bodies grown adult men and instantly makes his way up to the 50th floor of Heaven's Arena, despite never having combat experience. The duo of Gon and Killua ultimately end up running into Wing, who acts as their Nen instructor. Wing describes Gon and Killua as natural geniuses. He tells this to Zushi, that if he is a 1 in 100,000th talent, Gon and Killua are a 1 in 10 millionth talent. Throughout his various fights in this arc, Gon is constantly excited about fighting, eager to test out his new power, even if it comes with detrimental costs. Take for example Gon's fight against Gedo. Gon deactivates his Ten and enters a state of Zetsu, which is incredibly dangerous for Nen users, as it makes them extremely vulnerable to all Nen enhanced attacks. This is one of the many examples of selfishness Gon displays, and it leads many to paint him as a selfish character. I wholeheartedly believe Gon is a selfish character, but this is exactly what's in line with a child, and is what makes him stand out. This selfishness paints him in a much different light than the idealistic, shonen protagonist that he's compared to. Gon's key moment in this arc is none other than his climactic rematch with Hisoka. Despite making vast improvements from the Hunter exam, Gon is still no match for this crazy clown, and he loses the battle. However, this doesn't weaken his resolve, it actually strengthens it, growing his obsession for battle even more. When arriving back on Whale Island with Killua, Gon asserts that he doesn't care too much about his mom because Mito is his real mother. This kind-hearted and good-natured commentary is exactly what makes Gon a lovable character. He has the ability and capacity to acknowledge the importance of people, whether they're influences by the titles of mother or father. Another characterization of Gon comes up in York New City, when the Phantom Troop take Gon and Killua back to their hideout after they're caught shadowing Nobunaga and Machi. He is furious that the Phantom Troop have absolutely no feelings for the people they kill and can't understand why that's the case. From what we know of Gon, this is extremely ironic considering that there's been many people whose lives he's disregarded. It's purely due to this fact that the Phantom Troop are seen as strictly bad by Gon. Therefore, Gon can't look past their murders and try and understand the deeper complexities of the group itself. Of course, this doesn't excuse the Phantom Troop for killing, but keep in mind that Gon witnessed Killua rip Jonas's heart out in the Hunter exam, and since this was helpful to them advancing, and Killua was his friend, he had no issues with it. This topic is very similar to the conversation that Gon has with Crollo. We'll soon see the brutal irony in Gon's words, and at this point in the story, Gon's character arc is slowly building from the idealistic boy we knew, whose dream it was to be a hunter, to one who's getting a taste of the world around him, slowly tainting him and sending him further on a descent to darkness. Moving things along to the Greed Island arc, a specific scene always struck me as interesting and is one I feel like confirms the key points I've been making about Gon so far. When Gon is taken to train under Bisky, she has them fight against Beanolt, a disgusting and objectively terrible individual, so they can improve their Nen abilities. This is a guy who likes to rip apart and eat his victims. However, despite knowing this, Gon thanks him for his help. In stark contrast to the Phantom Troop in York New City, Beanolt was able to provide something of value to Gon in training. Therefore, he was not a bad person in Gon's eyes. This example is one of the clear indicators that Gon doesn't have the ability to sort the good from the bad, nor the right from the wrong. This is even further validated later in the arc, where Gon works with Hisoka to beat Razor during the dodgeball game, when just a few arcs ago, he had a personal vendetta against him. At last, we finally made it to the Chimera Ant Arc, my favorite arc in the series. It presents such a massive tonal shift from the rest of the story, and is where Gon's dark nature truly comes to the forefront. The arc begins by Gon and Killua being sent from Greed Island, looking for Jing, only to find Kite, Jing's disciple. While this wasn't explained in the 2011 adaptation, Kite and Gon do have an extensive history. In chapter 1 of the manga, it was Kite who saved Gon from the mother fox bear, and told a young Gon that his dad is alive. Kite's revelation carved the path for GON and created the goals and motivation that we see in the beginning of the story. Some viewers who didn't know this are confused as to why GON's descent seems so misplaced or exaggerated. But to GON, Kite is truly a father figure and is one who gave him purpose. When this figure is ultimately lost, it leaves GON shocked, lamenting, and in despair. And through this despair, we see the lighthearted character in him disappear completely. What's left is a mindless monster, purely focused on destroying the source of all this despair, Pito, no matter what the cost may be. Due to this overwhelming guilt that he feels, he lets the puppet of Kite strike him over and over again, as he's the one who feels responsible for Kite's death. This sudden tonal shift really illuminates how unhinged GON truly is. During the inevitable confrontation between GON and Pito, he's unapologetically hostile and can't understand how Pito is even able to help another person after what they did to Kite. When Pito ultimately breaks their own arm, GON's willpower takes another massive blow. In GON's mind, how could someone so seemingly cruel harm themselves for the sake of another person? After Komugi has been healed, he threatens to kill her if Pito doesn't immediately come with him, again showing he has almost zero regard for a life that doesn't provide him any value, and his obsession for revenge. When arriving to Kite's location, Pito tells him that they can't do anything for Kite, and that he's no longer alive. All of the pain, suffering, guilt, and agony boils up in GON, as he's willing to sacrifice literally everything to obliterate Pito. Like in GON's past experiences, there was no gray area, no middle ground. Only one option was available to him, and he was willing to do everything in his power to make that a reality, even if it cost him all of his latent potential. Losing his arm to look like Kite was one of the saddest moments in the story, and is one that will always ring out to me when I think of GON and his decline into madness. In short, GON's story is a sad one. He was just a naive kid thrown into a world of complexity and multifaceted people. He was not prepared to handle this harsh reality and ultimately ended up as a shell of his former self, grieving, lamenting, and hurting. In my opinion, I think the story for GON moving forward will be one of self-reflection, truly learning about himself and acknowledging his flawed character. While it's unclear if he'll be able to use Nen again, it's clear Togashi built a beautifully monstrous character in GON. While there were a lot of details I didn't address, please let me know your thoughts on GON and how he left an impression on you. This is my first video on YouTube, so some constructive criticism in the comments section would really be appreciated, as it's your feedback that will help me cater best to you guys. Of course, if you stuck through the entire video, thank you so much for watching. If you like this content and want to see more Hunter x Hunter on the channel, please leave a like to let me know. As always, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified as soon as a new video is posted. But for the meantime, stay curious, anime fam.